informative, very exciting, very insightful, and very, very revealing. There are a number of issues that we've tabled for our conversation this morning, particularly that one African story which has heralded almost all the tabloids and the newspapers alike. And clearly, it is a matter of grave concern to all of us in the sub-region. Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso exit ECOWAS. What are the ramifications? What are the implications? What does it mean for ECOWAS? What does it mean for the bloc, the new bloc, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso? Can they survive? If they survive, what does it mean for ECOWAS? If they are unable to survive, what does it mean for them? What are the possible trade relationships that may emerge by reason of this exit? We do know of UK's Brexit and the ramifications thereof. And so are they going to suffer the same fate, or they will be able to withstand the fortitude of the pressures which may be emanating from the West and also from the Economic Community of West African States, the body itself? New EC reforms will bring chaos, President John Dramani Mahama. And the new reforms, I think, is still before the House. They've requested for several reforms to be made. But one thing that strikes my chord really has to do with the request that the 2024 elections should be moved to November by reason of some discomfort that it may bring. If we were to go ahead with the December 7th, it falls on a Saturday, so the discomfort that it may bring to a particular sect, religious sect, is the reason behind this current or recent rather interest in changing the date from 7th of December to November 7th. Now, there are so many questions which have been asked. Which questions have not been answered? There are so many, issues which have arisen, by reason of this mere request. Now, people are saying that, yes, if you look at the SDA community, there are just about 300,000 people. Now, must we base our decision on 300,000 people? What if we decide to move it to November 7th? Then another religious organization may come up again later and say that, well, we are voting on Thursday and therefore Thursday doesn't suit us, so we should also move it to another day. Then another religious organization will spring up, particularly our Muslim brothers will also say that, oh, the thing is on Friday, it's very sacred, it's holy, so we should move it to Sunday. Then Christians, those who worship on Sundays will also come and say that no, we can't vote on Sundays because Sundays are sacred to us. So these are the issues that, in my humble opinion, will spring up or have sprung up really in respect of this request made by the SDA fraternity. The people who know and the people who matter will be here seated to try and help us dissect and understand the real dangers, inherent dangers that perhaps we have not been able to make manifest. So clearly, we are going to deal with that matter here on the show. Day of shame. Day of shame. SMG to observe a Kromes overthrow with new publication of U.S. declassified document. U.S. declassified document. Day of shame. Ghana's day of shame is when Osajefo, Osiadeyo, Obonyuma, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was overthrown in Ghana. And that, in the estimation of many, is the beginning, or was the beginning, of our plight and our economic woes. And clearly, we cannot at all doubt that. We will change election results spiritually. Spiritually, even if Mahama wins. Spiritual, manifestations. There will be spiritual incantations. Will be incantations. Spiritual. Yes, Lawyer Morris Alpha says they will change the results even if they have to do it spiritually. Wow, a lawyer. Oh, senior. a gunman who says Sani Baba. These are the issues that we've tabled for our conversation, and believe you me, today is going to be very exciting. We're going to delve deeper and deeper into these matters. We're going to do proper postmortem analysis of all the issues. We're going to dissect the matters with I don't know whether we're going to use pickaxe or we're going to use an axe or maybe a knife to dissect the matters and bring to the fore what is relevant and relegate to the background what is not. Because we have a country to build, and all of us must be interested in building Ghana. So let me go for this quick commercial break. We're going to be watching some videos. You remember the EC official who said that, oh, he was tempted to say Kokrodo. The man said, I was tempted to say Kukrudu. Yeah, he was tempted to say Kukrudu. Then he realized that no, where he was, he couldn't say Kukrudu because he's an MPP member. So we'll be playing those videos as a commercial break. When we return, I'll introduce my panelists and then we'll start the conversation. You don't have to move a muscle. Today promises to be very exciting. Stay with us.
My friend, I can't mutia at the age of 6-7 years. Now me school St. John's Preparatory Primary. So that time no na ewo Siao ABC we Achimota. Na ye wo bush. No. You see school no wo bush no ntino. Bush no with mountains. Yes, ye pretty park. Enti mutia no mo yi omhu di kire nkwala. Was ye entiase. Enti etumi dza ye dom. Say na mutia no ye be wona from akese bibo. Na mutia ne bieni. Na ye hu omo. Omo afa adowa. Na omo to nyom na omo nan no wo buti say. Na omo sache, na omo entertain. Omo entertain na ye hwe, na ye boy nsem. Na mo hwe cartoons ana. Yo, da bi ye show omo. Omo bie mani ma ye hu omo ti ye hwe omo wa omo teteteni ye wo ye peni oba opa na obo nifra wo ye peni omo ba omo ma hu ba ye ndi omo ye hu omo no mo ye die grossa no mo hwie a no ma ye say ni akọ football park so na ye no mo ko ball boss ye ko football park so a ye o park so a bo se omo de frama owo na omo ye say na etino ye de nim say ya na mo fo no omo na mi so Then say enough for no more. And you know, almost said the material friends, Yakohun Yama, Yahoo Yama, Yama, nobody from Cassava Fire Yamano, no, a Peter Yamano, no, do much, no, my gem, it's only Diagro. A war, any Munia, while I'm with Diagro. It's much an Indian Diagro. I'm a to be a, it to be catch say Petofi. Uber one of the in our brain. Yet what do you and give us toffee. That your ones are not toffee. I been landed. Our end runner. More toffee. Yes, so many now for 80 doctors 70% Kramutia. I saw for 80% Kramutia. Motiaro they operate in that realm. And to what are those days now? Omo magic no. Magicians no. When I say more, if I defeat, oblige, I say, I'm from Ain't war banner what no. Spiritually, it's with no more. Utu Nisia, no ma cancel, no more this year. Ain't about one year better no, and you about to about one better no, you to be some results. Who results, who will be a quarter exams? I want you na come back na change script me ebi hear me girl.
I'll start by introducing my team. I have my returning officer Elvis Coker here, and I have my two deputies James Bella Ire. I hope my pronunciation is getting better. Bella Ire. Yes, he's a deputy returning officer. And I have Peter Abraham. Yes, he's also a deputy returning officer. These are the abled men I work with to help us have successful elections in this constituency. So thank you very much. And myself, Mr. Isaac Akutodako. I'm the officer, district officer, electoral officer for Nandom. Municipal electoral officer. Thank you. So I've enjoyed my stay so far working with all of you in this municipal, and thank you for your cooperation all the time. I don't have the opportunity to express my gratitude, but today I'll use the opportunity to express my gratitude. Thank you all. All right. You know, for a moment, as a referee, when I picked the mic, I was tempted to say Kukrudu. But as a referee, you know, I have to play by the rules. Yeah, so I pretend. I'll start by introducing my team. I have my returning officer, Elvis Koka. Yeah. And I have my two deputies. James Bella Ire. I hope my pronunciation is getting better. Bella Ire. Yes, he's a deputy returning officer. And I have Peter Abraham.
Welcome back from that quick commercial break. You're still watching Pan-African Television. My name is Kwame Usunan. So this is the news preview segment. May I quickly run you through the topics again and then introduce my panelists. Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso cut ties with ECOWAS. New EC reforms will bring chaos. Bahama. Day of shame. SMG to observe a Cromer's overthrow with newest publication of U.S. declassified documents that's captured on the front page of the Inside newspaper. Will change election results spiritually. Lawyer Boris Ampo. That's the video you just watched. I've been joined in the studios by Michael Niaboy. Good morning.
Good morning.
I trust you're well.
I'm doing good.
And Mr.
Good
I'm well. And Mr. Chrissy Pratt. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
We're expecting Elvis Bota to also join us here on the show. Let's go to Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso. I'm sure you've been following the story. Their exit from ECOWAS.
Sure.
Yes.
Well, good morning to your viewers, and I would want to greet the people of Udududu as well. In all this, we have to look at what really ECOWAS was supposed to be. What was it meant for? And there was a lot of struggle to get it formed, and there was a basis for its formation, and it was supposed to have connected us economically, amongst other things. If you look at the protocol in terms of the ECOWAS structure, we should have been moving freely amongst ourselves. We should have been taking advantage of each other's strength and all that. Since 1975 or so, since its formation, I don't think really we have all realized the intended benefits of what ECOWAS was supposed to be. Then the recent issues with the coup d'etats and the current wave of leadership, most of these coup kind of got seems to be so awoken in terms of economic issues. And I think that there is so much support for whatever they did, and also the push against whatever happened when Nigeria even threatened that they would invade one country to bring back the democratically elected government and all that, and how quickly they were able to mobilize themselves and wanted to assist each other in an event of an attack of that sort. I think this has brought them closer, and they probably find solace or some comfort in coming close as countries that have experienced coup d'etat in recent times. And they will compare that to whatever benefits they are getting from ECOWAS and all that. My only worry and challenge with this is that should this be entrenched, it is going to be more fashionable to have coup d'etats along the West Coast. Again, if this is entrenched and not carefully watched, it is also going to ensure that they remain in the situation they are in as leaders who have taken arms, who would probably rule for a long time rather than returning the country into a democratic rule. When that is successful, when they achieve so much under that, then we shouldn't be surprised that other democratical economies within the West Coast would also start, thinking or moving into such similar situation. That is my only fear. But we must respect their sovereignty as a people and as a nation, that they want to be out of it. If ECOWAS needs them, if the others left in ECOWAS feel they need them, I think this is the time they have to extend an olive branch to such leaders. We are always quick to say that, well, once there is a military takeover, you are cut off in terms of ECOWAS. But what real benefit does ECOWAS bring to such countries? And when they do the cost-benefit analysis, today, if you import anything, you are paying ECOWAS levy. And I don't know what I am benefiting in terms of ECOWAS. Yet we are supposed to pay levies for which purpose they are used for. We don't know. And therefore, it is time I think we need, the entire Africa, we need to reorganize ourselves well. We have to be true to the cause, or let everybody stay as it is. But if we are not true to the cause, we have seen what the European Union did up to date. We have realized that today, countries that were not even respected in terms of the currencies and all that they are using, today they have some respect. Their economies are doing well because of the bloc and the financial assets that stands behind all these countries. We don't have that here. We are not able to get our currency through. We have been running after a target for almost forever, and we are not able to achieve it because there is no real commitment to it. If there is no real commitment to it, disband it and let everybody have its peace. If there wouldn't be any real benefit to it. And I think what they have done is that they have all questioned what really ECOWAS was supposed to stand for. And it is time for us to actually give it a meaning or forget it. I think this will be my take.
Very well. Very well. Well, you're still watching the News Preview segment. Mr. Pratt, please.
Well, what the three countries have announced is an expected reaction to the lack of vision of leaders in the sub-region. It should be an expected reaction to the delusion of West African leaders and to their deliberate efforts to subvert the independence movement in West Africa, to subvert the patriotic spirit of West African people, and to play, to the applause of the neo-colonial forces in West Africa. Natural. These three countries, in these three countries, there's a fledgling patriotic revolution whose main objective is to break free from French neo-colonialism. Whose main objective is to ensure that French military bases in the sub-region are dismantled. One of the objectives is also to ensure that the people in these three countries own their own natural resources and exploit these natural resources for their benefit. Other West African leaders have come to the conclusion that this is a threat to their own existence. It's a threat to their own stranglehold on their people, and therefore started cocking their guns and threatening to attack them, threatening to wage war on these countries in order to abort the patriotic revolutions and also to ensure the continuation of neocolonial rule. What were these countries supposed to do? Sit down and allow leaders who have no credibility, leaders whose popular base has been completely eroded, to get into some kind of an alliance with France and other neocolonial forces to destroy their countries? Never. It will never happen. I think that these countries have taken very bold decisions and are moving forward into the future. Listen, a couple of months ago, Niger was the poorest country in the world. In a matter of months, Niger now is the fastest growing economy in the world. Now, instead of West African leaders sitting down and trying to learn what it is that the Nigerians are doing so that they can replicate that in their own countries, they want to go and fight them. You've imposed sanctions on them, you've blockaded them, and so on, and you expect them to continue to be members of ECOWAS. Now, they announce that they are leaving, and your response is that they are important members of the community and that they shouldn't leave. You were sacking them. You had virtually sacked them, suspended their membership, imposed unreasonable sanctions on them in the interest of a so-called democratic order. What democratic order? What Macky Sall is doing in Senegal, is that democracy? Appointing card-bearing propagandists of your political party onto your electoral commissions, is that democracy? Is that the democracy we should be defending? Who is holding credible elections in West Africa? Who is going to say that the elections in Nigeria were credible and that the results reflect any democracy, any principle of democracy? Amazing! These West African leaders are just sitting around, changing their terms of office, amending constitutions illegally and so on. These are the leaders who want to go and implant democracy in other countries. And you know, the amazing thing is that when there's a coup, they react so vigorously. But when leaders extend their term, rig elections and so on, all of them troop in to go and congratulate them. Hey, hypocrisy. What hypocritical leaders we have in West Africa. It's amazing. I think that these countries have taken the right steps. I'm in full support of their decision. And indeed, if you look at West Africa today, these leaders of the patriotic revolution are far more popular than all the other leaders put together. And the leaders, they can continue to dream about the restoration of French neocolonialism and so on. It won't happen. West Africa is on the move. West Africa is not looking back. We want to achieve the dreams of our forefathers. We want to implement the final resolution of the 5th Pan-African Congress in Manchester. We want to make sure that we make decisions about our own governance. We elect our own governments on the basis of principles that are accepted to us. West Africans want to own their own resources and to exploit these resources for their own benefit. This effort will not be allowed to be sabotaged by a Tinubu or an Akufo-Addo. It won't happen. West Africa is on the move and there is no turning back. Finish.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Pratt. Let me remind viewers that we're streaming live on YouTube as well as Facebook. So for those of you who are on social media, you can check out the live feed on our Facebook page, Pan-African Television, also on YouTube. Let me say a special good morning to Eric Nana Minta, also known as Abino. You're doing the watching this morning. Good morning to you. New EC reforms will bring chaos. Mahama says that. Michael. Is it going to be chaotic?
Well, before I get to that, I think it needs to be said
Right.
that democracy in general in Africa is under attack. What we are practicing as democracy is similar to a gun being pointed at your head. Is it not the same thing if you put the gun away and you use money to replace the guns? And if you look all over Africa where we are practicing, including Ghana, what we are practicing cannot be democracy. We saw the recent elections in terms of the primaries. You know, and it is like guns pointed at people's head. How on earth would you give each delegate 4,000 Ghana cedis?
No, some 9,000.
I mean, it's outrageous. So what we are practicing as democracy is worse than coup d'etat. With that said, I think that over a long period now, our Electoral Commission have acted in ways that suggest that they live on another planet and the rest of us lives here. And they are superior in thinking than the rest of Ghanaians. To the extent you would hear that language that, well, we are independent, so our decisions, you cannot influence our decisions. Well, at IPAC, it is only advisory and we can choose to take it or not take it. Look, I mean, at the end of the day, what is democracy? Democracy is about the people. It's about the choice of the people. It is about what the people want. When institutions behave more intelligent than the rest of the people, that is where we always have issues. We have had a lot of reforms with regards to our elections in the past, all in an attempt to improve the credibility of our elections. And therefore, anyone who goes on that path to engage in any reform must first of all show us how that will improve the credibility of our elections. That is first and foremost. Whatever is going to happen, you will need the people to support it. And therefore, the decision to reform and what the reform is about must be popular with the people. Bottom line, and finally, it has to make sense. Common sense. Common sense. I think even in law you have common law, which is out of common sense. Right? Now, look, we are being told that indelible ink will not be used again. What has changed in the electoral process that will ensure that without the use of an indelible ink, the credibility of the elections will be intact? I have not seen that. I have not heard anything towards that. I have not seen any other change apart from we being told that the indelible ink will not be used. Do we have a stable internet that on that day there will be no offline voting and every voting will be online, and the system can cross-check everyone who votes and prevent everyone from voting twice or thrice. What has changed in the system that we know? We all know that even with the indelible ink, people are able to vote multiple times. So when you are taking that away, in fact, what are you replacing it with? Is it a matter of cost that you want to reduce? Tell us that you don't have the money to finance indelible ink. Then we will ask you, in your budget, there are other lines in your budget that can be cut off to provide indelible ink. Until we get a clearer explanation why an indelible ink is not necessary in these elections, then we can consider it. But as it stands now, for me, again and respectfully, I don't see any sense in what is being done. Again, we are told that all of a sudden, in an election year, well, parliamentary elections should be moved up to November. To achieve what? To prevent what? I mean, what will this do for us? I am told that, well, some agreement was reached, whatever. The issue is not about an agreement being reached. The issue is not about everybody agreeing to it except one party. That is not the issue. The issue is about the common sense backing what you want to do. Does it make sense? What would that prevent? What would that bring us? Because, for instance, for me, once I hear such a thing, I will think about the money. If you want to organize election, employ people and pay them in November, and employ the same set of people in December to do the same work again in terms of the presidential, and you have money for that, but you don't have money for indelible ink, I just can't understand it. Economy of scale. You will deploy the same systems twice. We all know after usage there will be breakdowns, and there will be this, there will be that. Some will be missing. You know our elections. Places will probably be attacked, and before you realize we have lost a machine or two, and then you have to replace those machines again and bring them back again. We all know that the EC officials themselves are not that enough to man every polling stations. So you have to employ. So you employ, go through the process of employing in November and use the same people, or you will do another employment drive to recruit new people. I mean, what exactly do we want to achieve with that? Is it a case that, well, running the two elections is so difficult? Then I will say that when we do not have all the gadgets we used to, when we do not have all the telescreens that we used to have today, when in fact we went to Black Star Square and we were writing, coalitions were done on chalkboards, we were able to achieve results and announce results that were gazetted. There is no excuse in this modern Ghana for you to say that, well, it is too cumbersome running both elections on the same day. For a poor country as us, for a country that is begging for almost 4 years relief, 4 years to be relieved of paying its external debts and servicing it, you are prepared to waste resources of that magnitude for what? For convenience? to be said that, well, it was in your time that you brought this out, but for what? I think that long and short of this, all the reforms regarding the EC must make sense. It should not take a political party or former President Mahama to say that it will bring chaos. The EC themselves should realize that these decisions are chaotic in nature. And we don't want any disturbance in 2024. Elections should be peaceful. It should be orderly. It should be backed by integrity. Results that will turn out should be something that will be accepted by all. Please, I think this EC has too much going on. Every time there is something going on about her and her attitude and the way he wants, her style of running the EC. I think Afarijan did say something about some of these things, and I think she should learn from her predecessors and do the right thing. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
I trust you are well. Yeah, we're discussing Mohammed's concerns about the new reforms which have been introduced by the Electoral Commission and the fact that it may bring some chaos given the time that it takes to implement those reforms, particularly the indelible link. And anyway, let me allow you to make your point, and then we can interrogate further.
Viewers, I'm on set with for the very first time today. It's, for me, I don't see anything new in these discussions. And taking off from where he landed, it is clear that lately the EC has always been in the news for one controversial reason or the other. And okay, well, the one key thing I want to say, taking basis from this foundation, is the fact that you would notice that in the entire West African sub-region, let us look at the Sahel broadly. It is about the most insecure region globally as it stands now. Extremely unstable democratic structures in the definition of the West wrong, common sense in leadership completely eroded, and when it comes to primary issues of governance, there is nothing to write home about, not socially, not economically, not culturally. All of these dimensions of our growth continue to erode on a daily basis. But one key element that feeds into the whole arithmetic of insecurity within the region is electoral mismanagement. We are unable to account for a transparent, robust electioneering machinery that is devoid of suspicions. One thing in the character of politicians is that no politician trusts the other. No politician trusts another person, especially when it comes to issues of elections. And so the only way we can help reduce such agitations and tensions is to ensure that we are running an electoral management system that has the buy-in and the consent of all critical stakeholders in the field of the elections. This is the foundational principle. So when it comes to electoral management, it goes beyond the logic or the science and art of law. Yes, there are things that are legal and you may take liberty in certain legal mandates, okay, but as to whether they psychologically feed into the mindset of the players, okay, to allow them accept the results when you would eventually chain them out, is another significant thing we should be looking at. So electoral management is one of the most difficult of all managerial capacities you could ever think of. And this is where the surprise in respect of the attitude of the current EC emanates. For me, a lawyer of her type, the kind of exposure she has had, should have necessarily allow her realize that the earlier she does what is right and proper, the better, especially given the circumstances of her appointment. In the first place, the Austin of Charlotte Osei still leaves a lot to be desired. And the coming into being of Jane Mensah, giving her relationship with certain powerful individuals within, the power brokerage system, also makes it another compromising situation relative to her qualification and her fitness for purpose in that office. And if I were her, it would have been the opportunity for me to showcase a kind of leadership that rises beyond the reproach of, the tendencies and the dimensions associated with the kind of appointment I have had. But it doesn't look as though in all of these years of occupancy in that office, this wisdom has been learned. And so you will not then be surprised if we have the kind of things we are having, seeking to feed into the narrative that she may have been doing, or bridling her leadership in a manner that allows the institution of the Electoral Commission to do things in a manner so as to think it favors the appointing authority which is still in power. So it's a very dicey issue, okay? And given this context, it then makes it very straightforward for not just Mr. Mahama, but any other person, including you and I, who were to be in the position of Mr. Mahama or leading any serious political party, to begin to agitate and to begin to question these things. 2 weeks ago, we discussed the issue of the indelible ink. And it cannot stand any litmus test of common sense that suddenly we don't want to use it. We haven't grown so much to the kind of technological platforms required to write off some of these things. When it comes to technological platforms, okay, either for elections, for banking, for financial institutions, for insurance institutions, Africa as a whole at a continental level do not even have our own customized domains, okay, in hosting this kind of infrastructure. So you realize that there is a whole geopolitical rivalry, okay, when it comes to even these platforms. So why would we want to convey our electoral management system onto platforms and domains that we don't control? It simply doesn't make sense. So you see, gradually we are introducing systems that is making our electoral system and our electioneering in Ghana more of something prone. And this point I'm making is quite sensitive only for the wise and the prudent. We are making it prone to a cyber electioneering warfare and not just an electioneering process. I repeat, the kind of, given the context of the lack of domains, the kind of technological platforms and the geopolitical rivalry from superpowers controlling them, subscribing to them for electoral management is a deliberate attempt to seek to create an environment that is prone to a cyber electioneering warfare and not just the exercise of universal adult suffrage. So this is the situation out there, and we've got to be smart. Those seated at the EC are not the only wise people, and they are not the only political scientists, and they are not the only lawyers. Even on this panel, we have a lawyer, Champion KOD. You are a lawyer. Are you getting it? So these things they are doing, it doesn't make sense, even in the eyes of the law, because the law is but to protect the decency of society and to make it habitable for mankind. What is the law? If it is predicated on variables that will spark chaos and create a chaotic, and anarchous community for us. So the EC must be told in his face, and Jane Mensah must be told in her face, that what is happening is stupid. It's simply silly. There is really no diplomatic description to the kind of decisions happening at the EC otherwise than concluding that there is a silly application of common sense. That is what is happening there. So for me, I think that from the background, as somebody inclined in security research, I think that these decisions are not just taken by chance in the interest of any particular transformation.
There's something significant in your submission about cyber
Yes.
Do you think the opposition parties are doing enough to bring the attention of the Ghanaian people to the fact that there's a possibility that all of these things are done primarily
for somebody to use the computer to rig an election? This is the point the opposition is not seeing.
Yeah.
The opposition doesn't seem to see this matter from the angle I am discussing it. And I'm bottled up on this matter for so long a time. I've been looking for adequate platform. You see, and that is why sometimes I get angry at the NDC. The NDC because it is the leading opposition party. You see, you don't go fighting these things, okay, from a populist standpoint. So if Mahama says they will resist, or the EC wants to create chaos, and so what? Is the chaos your intention as a president or a candidate who wants to come back? The chaos is not, because in the end, the chaos will actually benefit the people who are still seated in power.
So they will create the chaos.
So they will create the chaos. We have what we call the economy of conflict. Okay, where people deliberately create conflict, and to benefit the process of power, access and influence thereof. This is the smartness the NDC is not getting, and today I'm not even being charitable to them. I think that they are unintelligently analyzing this matter. The thing the NDC should be telling us is that there are systems and platforms being created to allow for some people with electronic and cyber superiority to rig the elections. This is the summary of the whole thing. They can meet me for consultancy at a fee later and for details. But I'm telling you, look at elections in Ghana. The dynamics changed after the 2012 elections petitions. So elections 2016, elections 2020, okay, took a different dimension beyond just adult suffrage. And 2024 is seeing, a catastrophic duplication of say. And the NDC cannot think to do this. All they do is to go around talking about economy. The elections in 2024 actually, it's not going to be decided by any economic woes. It's not going. You people are being too populist. I don't know whether some of them are paid to deliberately keep quiet. They will and they make noise. Then before I realize the kind of shootings that happened in Techiman South will happen in a few places. Lights will go off some places, and at the end of the day, they will lose this election again. I'm telling you. So the NDC should stop looking at elections as it were in the days where they mastered how to switch and stuff ballot boxes. These days, you're switching, you're swapping, and you're stuffing of ballot boxes, which the NDC were champions of in the 96, 2000s, thereabout, is no longer the case. What they deployed, and those who are calling the NDC knows, what they deployed to win the 2008 election is not applicable in the context of elections today. Are you getting it? We are in an era of a fourth industrial revolution. At the click of, look, and this situation is not peculiar to Ghana. Let me give you a comparative scenario to create a comprehension in what I'm talking about. You remember how Trump won elections against Hillary in the 2016 elections? And eventually, we realized that it wasn't just Americans who voted for Trump, but actually the victory was decided by the Russians, actually. I mean, it has, yes, just through a cyber system that had the ability to control the emails of people. I'm not the one saying it. It is the Americans who said it. And they went to court with it. And Russia hasn't really denied it. Are you getting it? So, why do we think that if cyber could play a role in deciding electoral fortunes in the United States of America, as sophisticated as their system is, Ghana is immune. All right? Ghana is immune to the perilous, elements of these cyber tendencies in our elections. So you see, intelligent thieves just don't break windows. I'm telling you, intelligent thieves just don't break windows. Intelligent thieves set up a system that takes your attention away, all right? And then they come in. They just walk in, pick it, and anybody seeing them walking out with the package even thinks it's theirs. The NDC is not thinking. You see, before you win the next election, 2024 election is for the political party that thinks. You must be a learning organization, a learning political entity to win elections 2024. So if the NDC is not learning, what I'm seeking to say is that they are analyzing the situation and the variables that feeds into it wrongly, and from a standpoint that is remote to the reality.
Elvis.
So we leave it there. Whatever it is, Charlie, country broke or country no broke, we all day inside.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pratt, respectfully.
Well, I don't understand what the Electoral Commission is about at all. What are these reforms intended to cure? What are the problems? It is obvious that the number one problem that confronts elections in Ghana is the fact that the results are not or have not been accepted over a period by all the parties. So there's an issue of credibility. You understand? This whole idea of changing the voting date in order to prolong the period of transition, what does it solve? Useless. What does it solve? Nothing. And the argument is that if you have a longer period, then there will be no chaos and so on. It's false. We have all lived in this country from 1992. Well, we've had so-called short periods of transition. Do you see what happens within the period of transition? Allegations that outgoing government is destroying documents, raids on ministries, departments, and so on, people being stopped in traffic, their cars being seized and all. That is when you have a shorter period. Now, if this chaos is extended, what did it do to the country? So I can't understand why there is this hurry to change dates and so on. In any case, the constitutional requirement is that to be able to change the date, you need to get 2/3 votes in Parliament. That is clearly an impossibility now. So why are they pushing it? And then the argument that, look, this thing was first attempted in 2015. So what? It failed. You couldn't get the 2/3 majority in Parliament to implement it. And there's no way now that you can get 2/3 majority to implement it. So why push it? Why push it? I don't understand. I don't understand at all. It solves no problem. The argument is that there's the possibility that we will have, a runoff. This election, 2024 runoff. How? There will be no runoff in 2024. Check all the polls, check all the research and so on. 2024 runoff is impossible. It won't happen. Now, even if we have a runoff, we've had runoffs before. What did he do? The runoffs we had, why? Were we not able to do the transition? What is this? And then this question about indelible ink. And the EC's argument is that, look, they already have a system in place, an electronic system in place. Master, what about, is it wrong to have multiple systems of verification? Is it wrong? Is it wrong to have multiple systems of verification? It cannot be wrong to have multiple systems of verification. So what is the EC talking about? The problem with the 2024 elections, main problem, is that the governing party has appointed its card-bearing propagandists to sit on the Electoral Commission. That is the problem which needs to be solved. Not indelible ink and, wasting our time. And then sometimes, Master, sometimes people will put in these positions, you begin to doubt how they think. You begin to doubt how they were educated. They issued a statement, Kwame, recently. And the statement was that 60% of the political parties which attended the APAC meeting have agreed on the need to shift dates. I mean, when I heard the statement, I was so shocked. Is that, listen, let's say that 12 political parties went to the meeting. Hypothetically, let's say that 12 political parties go to a meeting with the Electoral Commission. And that at the meeting, NDC and NPP take one position. And all the others take another position. What would the percentages be like?
80%.
Who weights political parties, their crowd influence and so on the basis of these numbers? So LPG, GCPP, PNC, CPP and so on would appear to have more weight than the combined force of the NPP and NDC. It doesn't make sense. Mathematically, it doesn't make sense. Yes, sir. And yet, the EC looks us in the face and says 60% of the parties which came to the meeting agreed. So what? How did you get to 60%? Very strange. These are the people who are managing our elections. Unbelievable. They should not continue to waste our time on these reforms. I hear that the NDC says that, as for these reforms, not for this election, but the next one. Even the next election, these reforms will not be correct. Even elections in 30, 50-something, these reforms will not be sensible. What is this?
The leadership of the NDC must oppose the new electoral reforms. We can't afford to lose the election because the threats on some of us, the lives of some of us, is too much. Abochi Adale Zogbe Prosper from Janga in West Mamprusi. Greetings. I love the words of Kwesi Pratt. West Africa is on the move and there's no going back. This one also says, are the present EC as constituted brainier than all past ECs? Do they have families, advisors? Where are our elders, Council of State, Peace Council, religious heads, House of Chiefs? When our whatever, because it's not here, is gradually being led to disintegration, maybe democracy. Mustafa Hamid, where is your rescue team? Mike in Pokwase sent in this message. Good morning, Pan-African Television. Greetings to Elvis from Bamaho. Okay, and tell him I will continue watching Pan-African TV every Thursday because of him. Why every Thursday? Why not every day? Good morning, KOD. The EC woman is confused as her bosses, Willie and Timothy. She shouldn't get closer to the flames with fuel in her hands. Bibi from Accra sent in this one. This one says, Kwame, looking at the three countries breaking away from ECOWAS, it is the best thing. ECOWAS is useless institution that has no use for West Africans. Don't forget they have already formed a Sahel treaty that will govern them. So I support them. This one says, good morning to you, Kwame. I strongly support Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger for quitting the so-called ECOWAS. There's no difference between President Akufo-Addo and ECOWAS because they are all failures. Before one crosses the Aflao border to Togo, it's a tug of war. But we claim we live in ECOWAS region. What has happened to the common currency called ECO? They promised us. The non-functional ECOWAS has brought us where we are. No development but corruption that has cut across each region in ECOWAS. In my kind of opinion, ECOWAS needs to be dissolved because it serves no useful purpose. From Sokpata, Rubin, Kofi. Hi, I normally find your station being the best with good submissions. The problem of your sound is very poor compared to others. Please work on the sound. Okay, please work on the sound. Thank you. You sent this one from Uti region. My name is Comrade Kaunda from Okay, you didn't add the conversations, but you said Garu is green for JM and Dr. Thomas Anaba. My greetings to Mr. Kwesi Pratt Jr. Well, thank you very much. The messages are a lot, but let me move on to the other subject. Elvis, I wanted to make a quick point after Mr. Pratt, and then we'll move on to the next topic.
Yes. So I was saying that. So you see, in summary, this uselessness at the EC, okay, account for the kind of reasons that is causing Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso to move out. But I will integrate that submission when we get to the day of shame.
Then let me start with you on the day of shame.
Yes, indeed, if I were to be president, a day such as this should have had all flags flying at half-mast. Because since this day came to pass some years ago, 1966, I think, till now, we are a grieving state to begin with. And by extension, a grieving continent. Without apologies, all the problems we are facing in Africa today are problems we are facing because we did not pay heed to the advice of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, who realized that the only possible way to have protected our independence, politically and economically, socially and culturally, would have been for us to marshal our integrated efforts, marshal integrated resources, so as to be able to build a security and economic architecture. That is what true integration is about. We failed to do that. Even amongst the African leaders then were various groupings and subgroupings opposing each other depending on one, their own level of greed, and two, the influence of the already greedy Western countries. So then you will have, even before, even within the broader scheme of ECOWAS, AU, which was OAU then, the Organization of African Unity, you had those coming in from the Monrovia group, the Casablanca groups, the Brazzaville groups. They all had very serious entrenched interests in certain things, accompanied by different philosophies altogether. It is the kind of uselessness that have translated in all the activities of the AU all this while, KOD. So clearly, the overthrow of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was not just an ordinary one suffered by Ghanaians, it was also one that exactly affects the entire continent. You see, for me, this is the foundational problem we have suffered as a continent. And so, what benefits have we reaped in the end? The benefits we have reaped is the loss of state institutions that were meant to scale up an industrial effort. That is number one. Number two, what we have reaped is a kind of political system that cannot make an impact and has no voice in global discourse. And so we are always with a cap in hand. And thirdly, we have found ourselves in a vicious cycle of indebtedness, while simple social amenities are still lingering. There is no good road in Ghana, KOD. Where is that good road? You mentioned one. There's no good road in Ghana. Look at all our major roads, and I'm particularly concerned at this point about a major road, which is the Accra-Kumasi Highway, and most importantly, the Kumasi-Wa Highway, very unmotorable at this particular point. We import everything now. The other day I made an analysis, and I'm saying that even toothpicks accounts for, a lot of cash. In fact, chewing gum accounts for over $80 million annually of our gross import capacity. Why must it be so? Yet we feel that these people are the people who will help us, this current crop of politicians. How did we get there? We have gotten to where we have gotten to because Dr. Kwame Nkrumah and his entire ideology suffered internal betrayal. Now, that internal betrayal, you will find excerpts of details encapsulated in The Great Deception. A book containing declassified CIA documents. At least, it tells us how J.B. Dankwa and other greedy elements decided that if not through them, then Ghana shouldn't exist. Betrayed Ghana, thinking it was hatred for Nkrumah. At least, The Great Deception have made us realize that, one, at some point after the US attained their objective of getting Nkrumah out, J.B. Dankwa actually wrote to them, asking that the stipends he was given monthly for his role in betraying Ghana and Nkrumah was no longer coming. And so he and his family were suffering. I'm telling you, it's there. Go and read the book. I'm not the one saying it. This is historical. Two, they had a meeting in Lomé in the days of the establishment of the Akosombo Dam under the broader Volta project, under which was also the Volta Aluminium Authority, VALCO. They had a meeting and they took $30 million then. So you see how smart some families only think about themselves. $30 million in the 60s to betray Nkrumah and Ghana, and to even lobby that the Volta project should be stopped. We should remain in darkness because they noticed it was going to give a lot of push to the industrial vision of Nkrumah, and that will entrench him. Now, the proceeds of these monies have transcended generations, and children and uncles and nephews have inherited same. And they are continuing in that dubious agenda of breaking state pillars. And NDC, that should have been better as a social party, a party inclined to social democratic norms, will say that, look, let us fine-tune these liberal democratic tendencies. It's beginning to behave funny. I don't even understand these NDC people anymore. Whether they are no longer a worthy opposition. They are behaving like those in government. No wonder with the kind of parliament we have, but sometimes certain decisions happen the way they happen. And we hear all manner of things from they themselves that their MPs have taken monies, we need to change leadership, others are compromising. I don't know whether it is true or not. All I know is that there is a fundamental disconnect. You come to the ruling government, nobody is questioning the rising and inexorable rates of corruption. Okay, we are celebrating mediocrity. I have heard people argue that Bawumia must be president. And you know the reason? Not because of his competence, not because of his innate abilities in leadership, not because he's been tried and tested over time in governance, but because his wife is beautiful. Can you imagine the kind of society we have? Bawumia should be president because Samira is beautiful. So the beauty of Samira is a yardstick for a president to be chosen. Well, others says the beauty is cosmetic. Others says that the makeup is too much. Others says that it's not natural beauty. Well, whether it is natural beauty or cosmetic beauty, why would the beauty of the wife of a president be the reason somebody should be voted? As if we haven't even seen John Mahama's wife before, who by all standards, even at her age, commands the kind of beauty that is even rare in some of the younger generations. So that element again tells you how stupid we are, okay, as a people sometimes in the kind of decisions we are taking. So if we are a country and at a national level, this is the direction of our discourse, why won't you have the EC playing in the manner it is doing? Because if you look at the position of the EC, it fits into that kind of modus operandi those who betrayed Ghana and Nkrumah and used. So it's not as if they don't know. Let us not pardon them in the name of being tempted to think that it is an analysis they are getting wrong. No. They do all the permutations, they know all the options, yet they go and pick this one. It is the best for them because it fits into an agenda that is intended for the next 3-4 generations. Remember that the people occupying sensitive positions today, who had cause to appoint most of the people seated at the EC, appointments that included card-bearing party members into an institution that must be an independent body, so-called under constitutional provisions. Okay? And you think that is for nothing? You realize that these people who instigate these measures had this platform and this opportunity created for them in the happenings under J.B. Danko and Pa Willie and Co. So whatever decision they were taking then was not just to betray Nkrumah and to settle scores between J.B. Dankwa and Nkrumah. It was also to create a future that allows their children and grandchildren continue to be relevant and to dictate pace for this country. And the modus operandi is being replicated today because if you look at the popular document that leaked about the Ajapadia deal, if that document is anything substantial closer to the truth to use as parameters for analysis, it will tell you that these current children and grandchildren and nephews who inherited from the greed of J.B. Dankwa and Co. are also leaving something so that their children will inherit, both male children and female children. Have you noticed that they are coming into force so to even create some form of traditional and customary rivalry? You look at this dispensation, suddenly chiefs are talking, suddenly chiefs are TikToking, suddenly chiefs are on Facebook live. It's not for nothing. There is a cultural and domestic hegemonic war. It is why a learned person like the Doma can't keep quiet, because he thinks that the only way to solve some of these things is for us to go back to history. So you realize that there is that power struggle now. The Bonos want to take back their place in what culture have taught us. And one day maybe I'll have cause to talk about it. The Ashantis keep retaliating to also bring a dominant view of their perspective of the history. And in all of this, you cannot take the Ochenhene and his subjects out of the debate of a struggle for cultural hegemony in this country. Why? It is because a certain regime have resourced or seek to resource certain cultural elements as part of their broader scheme to dominate. So with this kind of mindset domestically, how do you think it will feed into the, policies intended for any genuine regionalism and cultural or whatever integration, which has an impact on political and economic, prospects for all of us at a regional or sub-regional scale. Right. So you will realize that these things are what the neo-colonialists feed into. There is a book, and it is the book everybody must read about Nkrumah. The last stage, all right, neo-colonialism, the last stage of imperialism. If you read it, it will expose you to these things. But before it, a foundational book will be I Speak of Freedom by the same Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. So look, these people should be ashamed because even in death, Nkrumah have defeated them. Right. So this is it.
Few messages and then I come to Michael. Good morning, KOD. I perfectly agree with Elvis. NDC should look sharp. You can't proffer an analog solution to a digital problem. This MPP is up to something. Watch the EC closely. Lord from Oti region. And then this one says, good morning to you, KOD. I'm David Nukunu living in Tema. Can you please give me Elvis's number for certain discussions? Okay, right. We'll talk about that later. Honestly speaking, Pan-African TV, no size. But please tell Brother Elvis that I need his number for tutorials from Bamaho. Okay. This one says, hello, good morning, Kwame. Please, can you... Okay, so those of you want to dash Elvis something, we will give his number to you later. People say they want to dash you something today. you have spoken their mind, so they want to dash you some momo. You need the momo, eh?
You will share it.
No, I'm like, I don't need it. Let me get you, Michael.
Yes, I mean, taking it from where my brother lands off, we are looking at Nkrumah and his overthrow, and which has been tagged as a day of shame. I am tempted to ask whether really it's a day of shame if those same conditions prevails today in our current situation in Ghana. Look, if you have read some of the leaks that involves the ambassador, I think, Mahoney, he had made a certain statement in one of the leaks. And what he said was that the agenda was to bring down all progressive African leaders. Mind you, by the 1960s, we have seen the Congolese overthrow, Patrice Lumumba's assassination, and all that. In those same leaks, you would also find out that they had actually take advantage of the economic situation in Ghana.
Right.
That in some form was used to make Nkrumah unpopular. And Mahoney has promised Nkrumah that the US and the UK will come to his aid. But how did we get into that economic situation? If we are in an economic situation, yet he can be described as a progressive African leader, then it is time we start rethinking the whole thing about African economy and what is progressive in terms of Africa.
Right.
Nkrumah, I have said on many occasions that he was the only holistic developer Africa has gotten till date. Every aspect of this economy, you will see the footprints of Nkrumah there. He was building a nation, unlike today, we find presidents building garages. As if they pretend to build a nation, but what in fact they are building is garages. Look, Nkrumah changed the economic structures of this country. And ever since, no one has even made an attempt of changing those structures or bettering those structures. And we must be frank. If Nkrumah was overthrown because he was a progressive leader, then really, I don't think it's a day of shame. It's a day of shame for those who perpetrated that nonsense. Period.
Yep.
It is not a day of shame for all progressive thinkers and people who think Africa. We must make those distinctions clear. It's a day of shame for the promoters like the US and the UK, for those who assisted the promoters in terms of the majors, Otu and Ankara. It is a day of shame for those who took money and supported and worked towards such.
It's also a day of shame for those who have benefited these monies.
Of course,
Yeah.
till date, no, their inheritance are still around. So we can see those who inherited them and all that. And today we are even being told that some of the monies was used to educate some of them, and that is why they are all over leadership. That is fine. But I am saying that, look, out of our adversaries, we should find a place to celebrate Nkrumah, right? And not only say that it is a day of shame. No, it is a day that the West recognizes Nkrumah as a progressive African leader. What did Nkrumah do to be called progressive, a leader? That is what we must find out. The infrastructure, the institutions. Look, our cultural setup, everything a nation needs to develop and be called a civilized nation was done by Nkrumah. Our music industry, every aspect of the lives of the people of Ghanaians, you will find Nkrumah in there. Up to date, let's ask ourselves, what do people come into power to do? What has Akufo-Addo done so far to emulate at least what Nkrumah did? What have they done? It's a day of shame because we have people in power who thinks all about power and not really to provide the necessary change and thinking that would develop the rest of us and bring true liberation to all of us. That is what we find ourselves in. It's a shameful day to me that our parents, grandparents, some of them were part or fell into the trap of seeing Nkrumah as the dark spot. Look, and it is happening today. We see people who are progressive thinkers and we want to shoot them down because it doesn't suit us. It doesn't fit in our agenda. What the US wanted is control and to influence how Africans think. The US president then, Johnson, made Nkrumah and Ghana his personal issue and ensured that he was taking daily briefings to actually get Nkrumah out of power. Why? For control. Today we are doing the same thing in this country. You have a president who wants total control even after his exit. We have seen how special purpose vehicles have been built to be put in the control of certain persons in this country, even when they exit power. We have seen that. Ghanaians like who fell for what the US was doing. Today we are doing the same. That we have fallen for people who are robbing us daylight, and we think it's okay. My brother has given me a lot of punches because he has spoken about the NDC and the fact that we are not serious and all that. The issue is that, yes, I agree with you to some extent, but to say that we have, that is the Ghanaian attitude. The things let's all wait. Things will be all right. We must be in the middle of the storm to calm the storm. In fact, Christ was not out of the storm when the sea arose. He was in the boat to calm the storms. That spirit of revolutionary lists have vanished from the NDC. That spirit of getting it done and going for it is kind of relaxed today in the NDC. And I believe that people are comfortable for a reason. And it is up to us, all of us, to gather our loins and make sure that certain people become uncomfortable. 24. If we fail in 2024, that will not just be the end of the NDC. No, as has been said by others, it will be the end of this nation and democracy in this country. And we need to do everything to fight for democracy and preserve democracy. But not this kind of democracy. A true democracy that emanates from the people. And that is for the people.
And I love that, just a quick one. And so the NDC, as part of your rethinking, must first interrogate the question of what your wrongdoing were that gave us the opportunity to capitalize on same to come to power. Once they are able to address the traces of corruption and those things which brought us into power, but which, by the way, we are doing more now, then it is the point the NDC begins to get it right. But if you continue to justify the rots under the previous JM administration, you won't be able to convince Ghanaians. So JM must first admit certain errors of his previous regime and say that, look, lessons have been learned, I'm coming to correct them. I am telling you that I didn't do this right, I will improve. When those things are done, it will help.
Thank you, Elvis. Good morning to you, good citizens of Ghana. Kwame Nkrumah said one day the youth will fight against the leaders. This is the time we need to rise and fight them. Ghana's democracy is meaningless. From Kaku Vegas in Kintampo. Good morning to you, Pan-African Television. The EC boss is not confused, though. She knows exactly what she's doing. Do you see how the 2020 elections results were declared? Many times. We must be careful. I'm loving your man, Elvis. He has to speak. Abu from Cape. Aziz Donla Inwa. I think I've read your... Okay. Chapter 12 and Chapter 12 of page 131 of MPP 2016 manifesto talks about good governance, fighting corruption, and accountability. However, the current corruption perception index ranking isn't surprising at all, because this government is not only corrupt but incredibly dangerous when it comes to siphoning resources of this country. Change is a necessity. Good morning to you. I love Elvis's presentation. Richard from Ho. Free advice to NDC by Elvis Bota. David from Sankana sent in this one. Democracy in Ghana today has now turned to be demo plus craziness. The just ended district elections, assembly elections, where I was PO in certain polling stations. People tried to vote double after being verified by the VO and casting his vote. He came back again and skipped the verification and came for another ballot paper, but we were quick to identify him and he was chased away by security. So clearly, yeah, that's what it is. In fact, Kwame, bro, Elvis is really doing well by speaking the truth, and now it is left with the NDC to watch out carefully, and if they don't, they will lose this this elections, and we need people like Elvis to become future leaders. It goes on and on. It's very long. You've sent it like 3 or 4 times. Okay, Mr. Pratt, please, let's hear from you.
Well, the Day of Shame was actually instituted by the Socialist Forum of Ghana some 30 years ago. And we've marked it every year, 24th February. We've marked it with mini rallies and so on. Now this year we intend to do something very different. Rather than have a mini rally, we have decided to launch the book, The Great Deception, How the CIA Overthrew Nkrumah. Now this is a book of declassified documents of the CIA, of the State Department itself, and other arms of U.S. government, the National Security Council, and so on. So these declassified documents tell the story. You don't have to talk. Just look at their own documents. And their own documents detail what they did in order to overthrow the government of Nkrumah. When I followed this over a long period of time, And the true story is still not known. You understand? A lot of people think that the center of the conspiracy was Kotoka, Afrifa, and so on and so on. No. The center of the conspiracy was actually the 37 military hospital. The key person was a Major Kwashi. Nobody ever even heard of his name and so on. So these are very revealing. And this is a book that everybody should have because it's the true story of how the Nkrumah government was overthrown. Story told by U.S. official documents. Now we're going to do something else which is very, very interesting. We have decided that the person to chair this book launch, and the Great Deception, this is the 4th edition. We've gone through 3 editions already. We're going to go through a 4th edition. And the person to chair this program is none other than Dr. Yao Graham. I mean, an intellectual of repute. He's an intellectual and activist of not just local repute, but of international repute. And we deliberately selected Dr. Yao Graham because of the credibility he brings and his own power, of analysis and so on. And then we're going to have Professor Ikuya Brichum of the University of Cape Coast to do a review of the book. And Professor Ikuya Brichum also is an intellectual of huge repute, locally and internationally. And she has recently been specializing in gender issues and so on. And she will be doing the review of the book. And then the guy to do the launching of the book is actually Professor V.J. Prasant. And Professor V.J. Prasant is a huge figure. In fact, he's originally from India, but has become a global citizen. I mean, you can't talk about V.J. Prasant today simply as an Indian. He's a global citizen. And he's a professor of history and a journalist at the same time. Currently, he's the executive director of the Tricontinental Institute for Social Research and also the editor of Leftward Books Limited. He is a correspondent of Globetrotter Publications, and he's also a very key figure in the International People's, Assembly and so on. Now, getting Professor Prasant to come to Ghana was not easy. I mean, Professor Prasant is in demand everywhere. I don't think that he stays at his base even for 24 hours. Constantly on the book, he writes about 3 articles a day and so on. But finally, we've managed to persuade Professor Prasant, or Comrade Prasant, to come to Ghana and to launch this book. It is going to be exceedingly interesting, and between now and 24th, we'll be reviewing more details about this very special program to mark the Day of Shame.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Pratt. I was expecting more.
Somebody send me a message. That worry, we die.
The shortest
submission. Well, I guess it's because there's a repeat of the couch after the show, so yes. This one says, I am Elvis Bota from Karani Lambusie district. So,
He's Elvis
Bota, the same spelling as yours. Good morning to you, KOD, and your knowledgeable panelists. Please do inform Mr. Pratt that those of us up north want the Nkrumah books to buy. So if they could get an agent or an outlet or even leave it at the airport or anywhere we can get it from. Joe from Nankpanduri.
I think what you should do is to publish or advertise the telephone number of Ayeli or the receptionist here. So anybody who wants copies of the books to buy will just call, and arrangements will be made to send the books over. We actually have all the 13 titles of Nkrumah, all the 13 titles that Nkrumah himself wrote. And then we have a number of books about Nkrumah, one written by Junil, for example, The Conakry Years. And one of the most popular books about Nkrumah is the Fight Back a response to anti-Nkrumah provocations and so on. So all of these books are available, and there should be no difficulty getting them at all. I don't have the numbers on me right now, but
I do have Ayele's number, so you can call Ayele on 0249-262-132, 0249-262-132. Call Ayele and place your orders for all the books. Good morning, Mr. Elvis is indeed a citizen. I like most of his political views. He's more nationalistic than partisan in his thinking. I am beginning to love him now. Kindly give me his number so I can send him Momo. All right.
Interesting.
Hey! Sergeant, why? I've never realized that your party is not sorting you out. So that they want to give you Momo for fuel. Master Elvis Muta is very inspiring and knowledgeable. I'm Eben from Prestia. This one also says, actually, Honorable Elvis, I'm proud of you. From C. Breakawa. Can you give me your number? Okay, Elvis, I think we need to put your number on the screen. Do I have your permission? I do. Okay.
No, they can rather reach out to me on Facebook.
So please reach out to him on Facebook.
Those of you can also request my number and deal with me later. You understand?
There's this message that I've not read. The person said I should read. One ballot issuer for the district level elections by EC will create problems for ballot issuing. The likelihood of overvoting and issuing of ballots for favorites party members is high. The EC must be told forward. Okay, all right. I think I've read your message. Thank you very much, Mr. Pratt. Thank you very much, Michael.
But the main thing we're going to do.
Okay.
As a matter of fact,
okay, then let me.
I don't think that clip needs any further discussion. Anybody who watches that clip can come to their own conclusion. The clip where
Maurice Ampao is saying that
they're going to change
spiritually.
No, not that
they will change the results spiritually.
Change the results. Meaning someone will win and they will change.
So carry on, just play it. That's all.
Please bring back Maurice Ampao's video, okay, and let the viewers decide for themselves. But I want to thank you for your time this morning. I want to thank you for watching the show this morning. My name is Kwame Usuna, so I'll see you tomorrow. We're leaving you in the hands of lawyer Maurice Ampao. See you tomorrow.
I can't mutia at the age of 6-7 years. Now me school St. John's preparatory primary. So that time no na ewo Siao ABC we Achimota. Na you bush. No. You see school no bush no bush no with mountains. Yes, ye Kitty Park. Enti mutia no muyi omhu di kire nkwala. Was ye yantiase. Enti etumi desire your dome. Say na mutia no ye be wona from akese bibo. Na mutia ne bieni. Na ye hu omo. Omo afa adowa. Na omo to nyom na omo nan no wo buti say. Na omo sache, na omo entertain. Omo entertain na ye hwe, na ye boy nsem.
Na hwe cartoons ana.
Yo, da bi ye show omo. Omo bie mani ma ye hu omo. Ti ye show omo. Wa omo entertain ye. Wo ye peni oba opa na obo nifra. Wo ye peni omo ba omo ma hu. Ba ye ndo omo ye hu omo. No mo ye die glosa no mo hwe a. No ma ye say. Ni akọ football park so. Na ye no mo ko ball. But ye ko football park so a. Ye o park so abo se mo de frama. Owo na omo ye say. Na etino e de nim say ya na mo fo no mo. Na mi so. Ye nim say ya na fo no mo. Etino omo ye say de me chere fe so ye ko huru nyamba. Ye huru nyamba wie na. Nyamba no ha. E omo no mo de frama kase be fa nyamba no. Omo ye na apeda nyamba no. Na ye du mo che na ma jemu. So omo ni di agro. Owo ene mu enia omo hu nkwala omo ne mu di agro. Ti mo tane ne ye di agro. E meto bi a etumi ka chemo say petofi. Ube ho no mo tofi na brain. Yet what do between aka and give us toffee. Yet your mama say na toffee abelande. Awo ye rana.
Mo di toffee nyina.
Ye di ni sha. So many now for 80 doctors 70% ekramotia. As of for 80% kramotia. Motiaro they operate in that realm. And to what are those days now? Omo magic no. Uko magicians no. Uko jina openana motiana. When I say more, say more. If I oblige, I want to say find omo from. And the war bana hotono. Spiritually, it's with the no.
Motia was
Utu wana, utu ni siya. No ma cancel. No ma de siya. Etina about one ya beto no. Enya unemu about opo. About one beto no. You to be sisa results. Who results? Who obi akotro exams? What you na ye come mark na hum na change you.
Truly African.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the show. This is The Couch. My name is Amma Pratt. It's our first show of the year. I haven't seen you in 2024. So, official pa. This year, we hope to make, 2024 our best year yet. And so this year, we on The Couch hope for us all to hold our hands and do that, together. And so the shows that we have planned for you have you in mind, but have your growth, and your fulfillment, if that's, the way to put it, in mind. So welcome to the show. Today, our conversation is one that I'm eager for. I need this conversation. I'm sure you do too. It's a new year, we are still in January and the dying numbers of January. Today is the 30th of January. So far, how is it going? Last year, just before the year ended, we had conversations around, journeying into, the best 2024 that you can have. But how is that going? If that's going well, great for you. If it's not, don't worry. We have it on lockdown. I don't mean me. My guest has it on lockdown. So tonight, our conversation is on mindset. Our first conversation is on mindset. Mindset. Think about that. Let me introduce, my guest. My guest for this evening is our man, D-man, lawyer, thinker, coach, Mr. Theodore Albright. It's great to have you back.
It's a privilege to be here.
Official pa.
Afisa Sabrania Tinkwem na Bibia Koso Afibo.
Amen.
Yeah, Tinkwem.
Amen. I mean, it's been tough. It's just 1 month in,
yeah.
And I'm already feeling the pressure of 2024. It's like January gave me the welcome that I, January was like, well, hello.
Yeah.
So January's been really, really tough for me. I don't know about you or anybody else, but for me, everything has happened in January. Everything, right?